Expedia knows what happens when you travel.
Actually, your gate changed.
Here's your room.
Sorry about the view.
But with Expedia, like a great companion, Expedia has your back throughout your journey because it matters who you travel with. Click to download today.
Every morning is a new opportunity to take in the news of the day and the challenges of life and try to make sense of it all. Right now, we've got a show that tackles the topics and asks what you think. So get ready to start your day with a bold look at history as it happens. Let's learn, live, and sometimes laugh together. It's the Mark Davis Show on 660 AM. The Answer.
And a good morning, everybody, on this Wednesday, the 28th day of July, 2021. You know, time was in my industry, and it probably goes back a generation, where summertime was kind of the dog days of summer, kind of a slow topical period, and sometimes had to reach and dig deep to find stuff to talk about. I scarcely remember what those days are like. On today's program, we'll dive into the absurd, hand-wringing dog and pony show that this January 6th committee became. We'll take a look at, get ready, Simone Biles. No one should be mean to her. There are people saying just outright ugly things about her. That's terrible to do. Stop it. However, there's also a festival of excuse-making ever since we learned that her exit from the Olympics, first the team and now the individual all around, is because she wasn't in the right headspace. Really. I have an entire town hall column about that. I'll share it with you here a little bit later today. And, hey, Jake Elsey beat Susan Wright. And he will join us. In fact, the only thing between us and that moment right now is what we start each show off with. Lord, guide us and protect us as we face the challenges of each new day. We thank you every day for this blessed nation and for your hand in creating it. Fill our hearts with the energy to protect the freedoms which come from you, which our nation was founded to protect. Lord, be with us as we chart a course out of this COVID nightmare. Help us to be smart and safe as we reclaim our lives. Lord, these are times of trial and challenge. Lift us as we follow your word and work for a better America where our Constitution is honored, our borders work, where we fight for the unborn, and where our differences are hashed out with honesty and goodwill. If we follow you, Lord, we know we can get through anything, and we ask these things in your holy name. Amen. Yesterday, on Election Day, I said that this was Susan Wright's race to lose. She had everything that you want going in. Early support from a lot of establishment folks, and I don't say that as a pejorative term. Good amount of money, a huge amount of empathy, of course, because we love Ron and are so sorry about his passing, and a lot of that empathy, transfers to her. And oh, by the way, the Trump endorsement is not a bad thing to happen to you either. And yet, in the weeks leading up, there are a couple of things that made me, and perhaps many of you, think anything is possible here. One, and this is what I've focused on a lot, is because I was just so repelled by it, is just the repulsive and disgusting and deceptive ad campaign. Some from Club for Growth with Susan's obvious agreement, and some from her campaign itself. And I've invited her on the show. Jake was on the show a few days ago, and she knew she was welcome. She had been on the show before. I asked her about those ad campaigns. It was uncomfortable hearing her try to distance from them, and maybe she thought that's how that would go again, or her handlers did. Anyway, a funny thing happened on the way to the Susan Wright win. Jake Elsey happened, and there was passion, and there was grassroots appeal, and there was just some excitement that you could see building as the day approached. Early voting came to an end, and the real election was yesterday, and I guess it's roughly 53-47. And ladies and gentlemen, the latest member of Congress in Texas' 6th District, the Honorable Jake Elsey. Congratulations, man. How you doing?
Thank you, Mark. Good morning. Coffee never tasted so good as it does this morning. I can tell you that.
I can only imagine. As voting came to a close, the polls close, it's time to, and early voting gets revealed. You settle down. What's the first inkling you have that, gosh, I might win this thing?
Well, I was actually taking down the tent at the polling place in Midlothian. I wanted to stay until the last minute, and I did. And the early results came in. and I got a call about what the early vote looked like. And I think that the bellwether was when they said that I won Tarrant County by 300 votes. And at that point, I thought, that's different. And at that, and of course, I knew it was going to be another couple of hours before we heard anything else. But, for a few bright moments there, I thought this may actually work out. So it was right at 7:01 when I got that call.
There's one thing, because there's so much commentary on something, and I can bat it away. I can explode this myth, but it's much better if you do. And that is that, and Lord, you can feel the media just jumping on us like, oh, this is awesome, man. It's a rebuke of Trump. Trump knew nothing about this race. He knew nothing about Susan Wright. He knew nothing about you. Somebody got a hold of him at 5 o'clock at close of business one day and said, hey, Susan's going to win this thing. You might as well attach yourself. And I love Trump so much. I mean, he said, okay, let's do it. So this notion that your win is somehow a rebuke of Trump's power in the district or his appeal in the district, that's nonsense. Can I get an amen?
That's you got an amen. That's nonsense. It's interesting because people from the media that don't live here will ask that question incessantly. It has nothing to do with the race or the two individuals involved. It's all about that and a rebuke because they want that. And I have never ever played any role in wanting to give them any rope on that. It's just something I avoid. The president is still exceptionally popular in this district.
So now what? How long before? I mean, when will you be sworn in?
That's a good question. But here's where we're going to start. You know what? By the way, I wanted to tell you, thank you for that prayer this morning, man. Every day you do that, it means so much. It's a great way to start the day, and I needed it this morning because the phone started ringing right off the bat. Thank you so much for helping center me and get the day started with that prayer. It's a beautiful prayer.
That means the world, man, because it does the same for me, too. I sit here and sling hot topics all day. I figure it's a good idea to talk to God before talking to anybody else. But thank you, Jake. Continue.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, so here's what I got to do today. I've got to go back to Austin and get another slip for a few days off. My slip expires today.
I think this doctor's note, I think everybody will be okay with.
But I'm going back to Austin this morning. That's at 8 o'clock. I'm on the road to head back to Austin and get another slip for a few days. Then tomorrow I'm going to take my family up to Washington, D.C. I missed a whole bunch of phone calls last night. I have 400 messages in my text message box that I couldn't get to, and I missed a couple. One of them from Leader McCarthy and several other congressmen. So I'm going to head to D.C. tomorrow, anticipate a swearing in maybe Thursday, perhaps Friday before the August recess, so I can get my staff going, my offices going, establish constituent services in our district, and get to work, because not a whole lot happens in Washington. Some would say thank you, appreciably
exactly.
in August.
Exactly.
But I need to set up those constituent services immediately, and I've already got a skeleton staff picked. I'm going to keep my district director for the state representative position, and I'm going to try to keep that same office. And then I'm going to work on getting an office in Arlington and getting one in Corsicana. So I have a lot of work ahead of me just on constituent services, and frankly, I'm grateful for the break of August so that I can do that appropriately for the people of the 6th District.
You know that everybody who ever knew you, who ever sat down for a cup of coffee with you, suddenly is going to become your best friend, and all of a sudden they want to be, your assistant legislative director or something. So just get ready for that onslaught. It's going to be like living in a batting cage.
Well, it's better than people not wanting to work for you, I think.
You are correct, sir. And then the job begins. And then the job begins. Now, we spent an entire campaign talking about big boilerplate issues that are obviously extremely important, like borders, and extremely important, like, infrastructure. And you know the playing field that you're about to walk into. But as I looked yesterday, I watched this, and I don't mean to hang too much on this, because what a dog and pony show it was. This hand-wringing dog and pony show about January 6th, which was admittedly, it's terrible to have people breaching the Capitol. We can't have that. But my Lord, the political theater, and just, you were busy, but with that ongoing for God knows when, what is the new incoming congressman for the 6th District have to say for the next few days and weeks of this political theater?
It's exactly that. In fact, I saw the opening statement of the chairman of that committee, and I could only watch about a minute of it because we have a thing in the Navy called a kangaroo court, where the verdict is already reached.
Yeah.
We know what's going to happen, and it's one thing to investigate any issue. It's one thing to investigate simply one without ignoring what's happened on the coasts of our country, the cities and the coasts, with riots for a year and a half and acting as if they don't exist. It's another thing to, without precedent, deny the membership of a member or two picked by the minority leader to be on that commission. What's interesting is yesterday, Mark, when you call my campaign number on the website, you get me. And I got a call from an irate voter yesterday who must have been a sailor, because he cussed me out one way up and down the other because I gave that answer. I don't want a kangaroo court, and neither should anybody else, any more than when we talk about election integrity. That's a bipartisan issue. People should care about that, and they should care about getting to the bottom of the truth and the truth only. And that's when it's a kangaroo court, then you start becoming a banana republic.
Freshly elected Congressman-elect Jake Ellzey with us. As you take a look back at the gig you're about to leave, when the biography is written and when you take a look through the index cards of your life, these 25 minutes you spent as a state legislator, what's that going to mean? What do you take away from your moment of service in Austin? Well, and fine service it was. Well, I would like to think that I did my job in the way that the people of the 10th District wanted me to. I showed up to work. I worked hard. I introduced some bills that I'm proud of. I worked with a great leadership team that had just come in after the difficulties of the previous session, dealing with COVID and passing having a good conservative session after Snowmageddon and COVID to accomplish the things we did as a team in Austin, dealing with the grid, which people still are confused whether or not we did. We did, and we did it early without fanfare and got it done. So I think the entire legislature should be proud up until the day there was a walkout on May 30th. Yep.
At that point, things changed. And then furthermore, once they did it in the special session, that's done damage, and it's done lasting damage.
So last thing, what's involved in filling that vacancy? Do you envision a healthy scrum to replace you in the proud Waxahachie-based District 10?
I think so. I don't know who's going to run, but I'm sure most people have some suspicions on who that might be, but I'll let them announce who that will be. I think what you'll see is, especially after this race, Mark, is a desire for civility, positivity, a positive outlook for the state of Texas for that race, because I think that people learned that from this race as well. People are ready to go back to being civil to one another, disagreeing without being disagreeable. You can't always accomplish that, right? But the Reagan Republican idea of a better United States, and the sun's going to come up tomorrow, and we're going to be what we have always thought of our country as being. I think that's the kind of race you're going to see in that race, because people here are just good people. They want to do their jobs, raise their kids, and then be left alone and worship the way that we want to, and not be told that they have to put on a piece of clothing for to go to church. It's just good people here. I don't want to ramble, but I also want to say this. I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for getting me through this thing. I want to thank my wife for having hope and faith in my candidacy and the way we ran it, and to all of those good supporters out there who got me elected yesterday. I know it was a surprise to others. Let's let this healing begin. I had a fantastic conversation with Susan Wright last night. She called and was very sweet, kind, and gracious, and I'm so grateful for that. And I look forward to working with her and all of her supporters to unite so we can take back the United States House and the Senate, turn this ship around, and take our country back.
Thanks so much for that last paragraph, because what a magnificent woman she is. What a magnificent servant Ron Wright was. And, pardon me, for you to step into this vacancy is something to see. And at some point really soon this summer, we'll have you on the show again, probably from a 202 area code. We'll see how the office furnishings are going and how things are going. And I really look forward to that and to a long, long time of conversations with Congressman Jay Kelsey. Congratulations, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
That is Jay Kelsey, freshly elected in Texas 06. I'm Mark Davis at 721.
Sunshine, go away today. I don't feel much like dancing.
What a great record this was. 1971. Not a bad 50-year-old record from Jonathan Edwards, who is 75 today.
When he tells me I better get in line, I can't hear what he's saying.
All right.
When I grow up, I'm gonna make it mine. These ain't
You know what?
dues I've been paying.
Let's let him get to the chorus.
Well, how much does it cost? I'll buy it. The time is all we've lost. I'll try it. And he can't even run his own life. I'll be damned if you run mine.
I was a big player when I was 14 years old. Jonathan Edwards in Sunshine from 71, and he is 75 today. Okay, getting ready for bottom of the hour news and our chat with Mike Gallagher, and I cannot wait to mix up some things with Brother Mike. Simone Biles, dude, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? One of our brightest Olympic hopes got blown out like a candle on a windowsill. Gone. Because she couldn't find the right head space. Remember yesterday I said everybody shush shush because I've got early news from Tokyo, and if you're waiting to see this on the TV box tonight, I don't want to screw it up for you, the few of you who are even watching the Olympics. But now we've got an issue that everybody cares about, because Simone Biles, one of the most talented, one of the toughest, and I mean physically and mentally, because that's what it takes. Are you kidding me? These little girl gymnasts, and she's 24, so she's a little woman, but a lot of them are little girls, have more grit and more mental toughness than a lot of football linemen will ever have. It is a physical and mental thing at the uppermost zeniths of athletic prowess. And it just left her. It took flight, kind of like she did on a vault, and a vault didn't go well, and she felt weird. I totally get it. But the reaction to it has been fascinating. It's been like, so if someone, for example, if Tom Brady throws 3 interceptions in the first half of the Super Bowl, and everybody's going to go, what the hell's the matter with Tom Brady? What's going on here, dude? What's going on? And he's going to get torched. And they're going to talk about what's the matter with his arm, and they'll talk about what's the matter with his mental focus, and that'll all be okay, right? It'll be okay to ask those things. Ask them about Simone Biles, and you are a dreadful human being. Trust me, I know. Take a look at my Twitter yesterday. And so I chose to do a town hall column about this. I'll share it. I'm going to share it with you in full at 8:05. But we'll talk a little bit about this, because the problem, it's not so much about Simone Biles. If she had a brain fart or something, I mean, listen, but the grace of God, it happens. But the excuse making, there were external expectations of her. An entire nation was going to watch her try to win gold for our country. There was an expectation that you keep it together. And she didn't do that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and some people are calling her terrible names. I'll never do that. I have unbelievable respect and also some self-awareness. What do I know about being a gymnast? But I do know through my whole life of watching various athletes over the years. Carrie Strug did this with a broken leg almost. I mean, what? So there are folks who are saying this like, oh, you're, demon spawn for saying this. And that, to me, is not so much about Simone Biles, but it's about us. It's about our softened world, where if you kind of say, wow, man, what happens? You are taking her mental health issues. Mental health issues? We used to call it choking. And not that I totally magically know that's exactly what happened. But if she says, well, she lost her spatial awareness in the air. Well, okay, that's almost a physical thing, too. Because, you're in her ear and God only knows what's going on. So, no, I don't want anybody to be mean to Simone Biles, but this, not at all. She's amazing, and I wish her nothing good things. I hope she can get her act together and get back in the Olympics, win a few things for herself and for us. But, man, what a festival of excuse-making yesterday was. And woe unto anybody that tried to say, what's going on here? Because I did it, and I got lit up like a Christmas tree. And silly me, I loved it. All righty, 866-660-5759. Mark Davis, 732. Our chat with our talk show buddy Mike Gallagher is next. Gordon Griffin is in the newsroom.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh.
So we all know the song, Mike.
The fundamental things apply.
As time
Here's
goes
looking at you, kid.
Yeah, we'll go. This is 1931. 1931. And the first recorded version of this song, written by Herman Hupfeld, was for the 1931 Broadway musical, there's the mic hook, called Everybody's Welcome. And it opened on Broadway in October of 1931. Wow. The first recorded version of it was right there by one of the biggest stars of that time or any other time. It is his birthday today, born 120 years ago, the great Rudy Vallee. And do you know what a big deal Rudy Vallee was in radio? It was the era of radio, obviously, and he had the Fleischmann's Yeast Hour because everything was tied to a sponsor. And in 1936, on one of his contractual vacations, he sort of tested the waters of the time and was a trailblazing guide and said, "Listen, if I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks, there's somebody who I want to guest host the show," and it raised some eyebrows. It was Louis Armstrong. Wow. Ooh, hello. So sort of pushing the...
So he took a lot of contractual vacations like you did.
He took a lot.
We'll start calling you Rudy.
How is...
We'll start calling you Rudy next time you're away.
You must remember this.
You know, he used to sing with a little megaphone.
Megaphone, exactly. Sure. Everything.
Well, I don't understand that. What was that about? Why would singers back in the day singing megaphones?
They don't do that today. You don't see Brian Johnson of AC/DC out there going, "I'm on the highway to hell." I mean, it doesn't...
How about this? I met Rudy Vallee. Get
what?
This. He lived
till 1986. So wow.
Right. Well, he also was engaged in his later years.
He logged some marriages.
Well, he also did summer stock, and when I was a kid growing up in Ohio, there was a summer stock production company called, it's how I fell in love with theater, because I was a kid. I would go see the Kenley Players. Mm-hmm. The Kenley Players went to Dayton, Warren, Columbus, and I think Akron, Ohio. And it was just a summer stock of all big stars, and they were the biggest stars. I mean, they were big names, and they would do Guys and Dolls and Arsenic and Old Lace and all these great productions. And Rudy Vallee was in a production of the Kenley Players. And now this is the geek I am.
Was he nice to you? Did he treat you
very
well?
Nice, very nice. He was very, very wonderful. But they had a pizza party every Wednesday night after the show, and the audience was invited to go. This is how schmaltzy this was.
I love it.
And I used to always go to the Marion's pizza parties with the cast of the Kenley Players, and I met Mickey Rooney, I met John Davidson, I met all these big stars, Stiller and Mira, I met them. There were so many cool names.
That's so cool.
And they always had to go to the pizza party, which I always thought, in later years, I thought, they dreaded having to go to the Marion's pizza party on Wednesday nights, but it was probably part of their contractual obligation to star in a production in Ohio. It was really cool.
That is absolutely
and Rudy
great.
Vallee, I remember seeing him and thinking, man, he dyes his hair. Because he had like slicked back, kind of the Brill cream, but it was like an unnatural black. And I thought, yep, he's dyeing that hair. But anyway, that was my here's my brush.
Shall we move from legitimate uplifting theater to the kind of sad, disgusting dog and pony show? Now, listen, we've carried a certain policy around that says that I'm almost not even going to talk about this stupid January 6th committee. But Mike, this thing yesterday. It's kind of like the Olympics. I don't care so much about the Olympics, but the Simone Biles thing is enormously riveting. Like, what does that say about her and about us? In terms of this January 6th committee, to see these officers, and we're the guys who actually love law enforcement, but I'm going to say this very, very advisedly, to see these officers disgrace their uniforms with this pathetic, hand-wringing, whining and moaning. They trying to do. I mean, can you imagine if people came off some of the Black Lives Matter riots, and we took some of the cops off the streets of Portland or Kenosha, Wisconsin, or St. Louis? The mean people tried to set fire to my car. Can you imagine? It's just not done, and to have these officers politically weaponized was nauseating.
I never thought of it that way. You're so right. When we saw the video of officers assaulted, attacked, spat upon,
it was terrible.
Called every kind of name in the book in the Summer of Love. Ain't nobody talking about it.
No, exactly right. Sorry.
I'm not talking about January 6th. I'm talking about the George. Now, we saw the January 6th thing. Brett Baer had a big, eloquent monologue yesterday. You can't minimize it. You can't say it was no big deal. He's right. It was a big deal. Absolutely, it is a big deal. But I have to try to wrap my brain around listening to a Capitol Police officer be allowed to foment a lie that has been completely debunked, and that is that Officer Brian Sicknick died from injuries sustained in the line of duty.
Yep.
Now, Mark, either the medical examiner of the District of Columbia is lying, or Officer Harry Dunn is lying. They can't both be right. There's no way that the medical examiner of D.C. can officially rule that Brian Sicknick died of natural causes. There's no way that the official rule... I don't know about you, Mark, but if it's between the official ruling by the coroner, the medical examiner of D.C., that Brian Sicknick had a stroke, died of natural causes the day after the riot, or Officer Harry Dunn weepily and tearfully saying that let's have a moment of silence for Officer Brian Sicknick, who died from injuries sustained in the line of duty, Mark, that disrespects Brian Sicknick.
Correct.
That disrespects Brian Sicknick's family.
And Harry Dunn does not care, because Harry Dunn is a leftist activist. He has been outed as such. He's a Capitol Police officer, service for which we thank him. I always will. I will always honor that service. But when he sat down and said that this mob was sent, and I like to look at it kind of this way, that when there's a hitman, you punish the hitman, but you also go after the person who sent him. And what we did on January 6th is we stared down that kind of riot, and a hitman sent them, and he's talking about Trump, and I want you all to get to the bottom of this. Well, of course you do, Harry Dunn, because you're a leftist activist cop, and that doesn't work any better than a leftist activist athlete. In fact, it's worse, because of the trust we place in law enforcement to shoot straight, literally and figuratively.
Well, and none of us are comfortable criticizing law enforcement. At least I'm not. I don't like criticizing. I'm not
criticizing law enforcement.
Yeah, you are.
No. No, I mean, criticizing law. Maxine Waters criticizes law. I criticize cops who do bad things, whether it's on. And I know what you mean. You know what I'm talking about.
You know what I mean. None of us like criticizing cops, period. I don't like criticizing law enforcement at all. But to tell you the truth, what I saw yesterday was beyond disgraceful, and it was sheer theater. The cries. I mean, Adam Schiff and Adam Kinzinger weeping and crying, and you know what? I mean, there's been a lot of things that have happened. I don't know if they cried over that officer who bled out on the streets of St. Louis after he was shot dead. He was a retired officer trying to protect his friend, whose store was being looted and vandalized and burned down by George Floyd protesters. I don't know. They cried for him.
They didn't cry for David Dorn, and the reason of this, the psychology of this, is they need this to be this gut wrenching. They need this to be so sad and to be filled with such pathos, because they hate Trump, and they need January 6th to be 9/11, and they need it so badly, and it is comical to see. Do
me a favor. Let me pivot into some really, really uplifting news, because I was, for some reason, driving into work yesterday, listening to you as I always do. I thought, leave it to Mark Davis to do an endorsement without an actual endorsement. You endorsed Jake Elzy without officially endorsing him, and your message to voters in Tarrant County and the whole area there that represent that the 6th congressional district. You basically said, listen, Jake Elzy's a fighter. If you want a fighter, you got to get out and fight for him. You got to go vote for him. If you sort of want, the sort of establishment lady, Susan Wright, the wife, the widow of Representative Ron Wright, who we all loved, she was endorsed by President Trump, and I want to talk about that for just a moment. But I cannot understate and stop from bragging on my pal Mark Davis, because your monologue yesterday about this race, you motivated me to want to move to Texas to vote for Jake Elsey. I wanted to leave Florida, and because I was like, yes, we got to fight for this guy. And I guarantee you, now I haven't had a chance to hear much of the show today because I'm dealing with some personal stuff and a prayer out for my friend who's going through some really tough times right now. So I don't want to get into specifics, but I hope our audience can pray for my dear friend who is struggling right now. So I'm dealing with some personal stuff. Didn't get a chance to hear all of your show. Tell me Representative Jake Elsey is coming or has come on the Mark Davis show this morning to thank you for your endorsement, to thank you, Mark Davis, for helping him get elected, because guess what? You did.
Jake was on at 7:06, and he was very kind to me and said many of the things you have, which I respectfully deflect a little bit. It was the voters who did it. There were a lot of people who backed him with what were actual endorsements, like Dan Crenshaw and Rick Perry. I never technically endorse, but I tell people what I think about candidates and about campaigns, things I like, things I don't. I love Susan. I hated some of the tactics that accompanied her campaign and said so. I really enjoyed the ascendancy of Jake, and he is the fighter, and I told everybody that, and they voted that way. I don't think it was magically because of me, but if I helped, I'm glad.
Oh, no, you helped in a major way, because the beauty of what you said yesterday, it was like, it was brilliant, because you're right. You weren't anti-Susan Wright.
Oh, I love her.
And you didn't do that. It didn't come off that way, but you gave a message that was just rife with clarity. You said, listen, you want a fighter. You want somebody in there who's going to shake things up, get the job done, a rock-solid conservative. It's Jake Elsey. If you're not ready for that, and what you said was you put it on the shoulders of the voters. You said, listen, you got to get out there and do it. And I can guarantee you, if I'm motivated driving across the Howard Franklin Bridge in Tampa, Florida, I promise you actual voters in the 6th were motivated as well. So it just speaks to you. It honestly, I'm going to say one more thing about you. It speaks to your credibility. It speaks to your relevance. It speaks to your reputation. I just am so proud of you and so, in admiration of the role you played. So kudos to Representative Jake Elsey. Best wishes to Susan Wright. Again, there's no, you kind of hate it with winners and losers, but, and it does unfortunately tarnish that Trump mystique.
Stop it.
And
no,
listen to what, let me finish it, because nationally it gives them the ammunition to say,
well, that's what I mean. Well, because they're
his
idiots.
First endorsement,
because
now it's his first one, right?
Here's first one of what? He's been endorsing people all over the place.
No, but apparently there was, I don't know what, if it's, I don't know what it was, but they said this was like his first, maybe this endorsement came first. I don't know, but the national takeaway is he's 0 for 1.
Which is why it was, and let's stipulate that here in the room, we love Trump. So dumb, so ill-advised. Somebody got a hold of him at 5 o'clock some afternoon and said, Mr. President, Susan Wright's going to win this race. Great, I'll endorse her. That's it. He had zero familiarity with her. Zero familiarity with it. It was an ill-advised endorsement, not the least of which because having not gone that way, because the Jake Elsey voter is a Trump voter. They went for the guy who is more Trump-like. Come on. This isn't a rebuke of Trump. It's an embrace of him, if anything else.
No, it's a dumb take. But listen, dumb takes are...
To finish, you're totally right. It's a dumb take, but here's the lesson. Don't give the media the opportunity to spread such a dumb take by ill-advisedly endorsing early in a race that's an open seat. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all right. He'll bounce back, and then he's got another one coming up, and he'll bat 500. You're right. I kind of regret it was probably a communications thing, and, hey, he can't get them all right.
That's true.
Doesn't mean he's not waning any influence at all. I'm not worried about that a bit. I'm just kind of sorry that they gave him any fodder. Well, how about that? Look at the time. We didn't even have to talk about Simone Biles. How about that? Nice to talk to you.
Okay,
Happy Wednesday.
Thanks,
no,
Mike.
I will say this.
Yeah.
I'm going to quote your town hall column on the subject, which is brilliant. It's a great thought provoker.
Thank you.
I don't have to agree with you to quote from your column, and I don't want to argue with you.
Dude. What did I get?
Mental illness, sexual abuse victim. Come on.
But she has not walked around with a sandwich board with that. What, we're supposed to say it's okay for her to choke in the Olympics because of something terrible that happened some years ago. She doesn't even ask us to do that. The excuse making is toxic. And it sets up this softened world where if anybody asks any questions, it's like, oh, you're mitigating mental illness. What? This is not mental illness. She flamed out. She blanked out. It happens. And if she were honest about it, said, man, I just didn't have it, then okay. But golly Moses.
Without arguing with you, I will simply say, for a guy like me who gets winded going down the hall to the bathroom and back, I'm in no position to criticize a world-class gymnast.
Yes, okay.
Nope.
So you and I are sitting here watching the Super Bowl. Tom Brady throws 3 interceptions in the first half. And then in the second half, it's another quarterback because he went to the coach and said, I'm just not in the right headspace. We're not exactly NFL caliber either, but you're saying that we're not equipped to say Tom Brady wimped out? Of course
Eric,
we are.
I can't hear the connection. What happened to the connection? I can't hear Mark. Is he there?
Mike Gallagher
is
today
he there?
at 10. Mike Gallagher
Where
today
is he?
at 10.
I can't hear him. Where is he?
Love you.
I can't hear it. Where's Mark? I can't hear him. I lost the connection.
The connection is gone.
Oh, the connection bad again. Okay, goodbye.
Love you. Mike is there
Signing
for you.
off.
Mike is there for you at 10 today. And listen, and interestingly, I have to come back at 8:05, and I will share the town hall column, and we'll all see what we think about this. You want on the line right now? It'd be a good idea. 866-660-5759, Mark Davis, 754. All righty, here we go. 8 o'clock hour. You and me. You and me and Simone. You and me and COVID. You and me and whatever else. You and me and that January 6th Dog and Pony Show Nonsense Committee. Topical Wonderland. Come on. 866-660-5759. And then in the 9 o'clock hour today, since as part of the return to normalcy is our Food for the Poor donors who have ponied up enough to come in and guest host for a bit. Our buddy Colin Cahoon did it, and our returning buddy Jim Castell will be in. This is a deep, fascinating, thoughtful dude, and I can't wait to get with Jim again in the 9 o'clock hour. We'll bat a few things back and forth for your listening pleasure. Right now, here comes some news, and the 8 o'clock hour to follow. Come be a part of it. 866-660-5759. Mark Davis, happy Wednesday.